G'day, guys. This is your English Aussie, and welcome to my new series on reviewing professional players' fantasy Premier League teams. In episode one, we're going to have a look at Trent Alexander-Arnold's Game Week 8 team. And as you can see here, Trent had a good week in Game Week 8, scoring 46 points over the average of 36. He's currently sitting overall on 483 points for the season and 1.068 million in the world. If we look into Trent's team so far, he started pretty well this season, actually, almost in the top 1 mil, and another good game week for him this week. He's got Henderson in goal for 3 points. Trent has not played his wild card yet this season. So I think Henderson is what a lot of us at the beginning of the season went for Crystal Palace, with Fabianski as his backup keeper at 4.0 million. I think Trent maybe is looking to play a wild card, maybe in 9 this week or maybe in 12 going forwards. At the back, he's gone for himself. No surprises there. And also the trio of Liverpool players with Mo Salah, the main man for Liverpool, as his captain, who rewarded him this week with 12 points, a goal and an assist. And also, interestingly, Diogo Jota in his team. Now, if we find out there's no serious injury to Jota, that might be great news for Jota owners going forwards. They obviously see from Trent that he's the first choice striker. Trent's confident that he's going to be playing in all of these game weeks over Darwin Núñez, who seems to be out of favour in Slot's team. This is an interesting insight to the Liverpool players and what they think around the starting lineup for Liverpool going forwards. Amazingly, this week, Trent did manage to get 46 points with 2 red cards in his starting lineup. Both Saliba and Kudus getting sent off this week for -3 each. Kudus obviously scoring a goal in between to pick up 4 points still. As you can see from Trent's team, he also has João Pedro and Ryan Fraser both red flagged on the bench. Now Diogo Jota with a yellow flag as well means that he's definitely going to have to be making some transfers in this upcoming game week if he wants to get through it with a full squad of players. Very unfortunate this week for Trent with those 2 sendings off. You don't see that very often, 2 sendings off in the same week. However, he does have saved transfers. He actually has 5 saved transfers. Incredibly, Trent's been rolling through the game weeks, several game weeks, and so it could be the case that he's looking to play a mini wild card this week. We can actually see that Trent has done this by looking into FPL game week, which I'm going to show up on screen now, and you can see 2 interesting things from Trent. One, you can see that the transfers he has saved are 5, and transfers used in the game week were 0. The other thing, interestingly, you can see is he has used his triple captain. And if we have a look at when he's used his triple captain, you can see that game week 2, Trent uses triple captain on Haaland against Ipswich, coming in clutch for him, scoring 51 points in that game week for a full score of 96 points for himself. So Trent's utilised that triple captaincy to perfection, and we'll see if he can continue climbing up the ranks in the upcoming game weeks, given his 5 transfers that he's still got in place. So looking at Trent's current team now, and maybe just doing a little review of it, suggesting some potential improvements for Trent for the future. Maybe if he sees this, he'll pick up some ideas for what he wants to go for. So at the back, if we run through his team, he's got himself Saliba, and Gvardiol from the big three teams. Gvardiol obviously doing excellently for Man City at the moment at fullback, really scoring 2 goals in the last 4 games he's played, and obviously playing for one of the 3 best teams in the league. He can pick up some clean sheets going forwards, especially with City's next 3 game weeks being some really good fixtures against Southampton, Bournemouth, and Brighton. Robinson also in there from Fulham with some good fixtures coming, and also Harwood Bellis. Amazingly, he's gone backing the defense, being the defender himself, and gone for 5 at the back, 5-4-1, which we don't see too much in FPL these days. But Trent's backing his fellow defenders and backing a few of his fellow fullbacks to pick up the attacking returns going forwards. In midfield, Mo Salah, Diego Jota, we've discussed. We've also got Anthony Gordon in there for Newcastle, who's been playing in some advanced roles for Newcastle lately, with Isaac out, both on the left wing and also up front. He's been getting in some fantastic positions, just wasn't able to finish in the game against Brighton this weekend. And Kudus, before his sending off, has been a real driving force for West Ham. Getting forwards, he's been definitely, along with Bowen, one of their best players, and that's going to be a big miss for them going forwards. And he's also back to the man himself up front, Erling Haaland. He's obviously done bits for Trent so far, getting 51 points as his triple captain over Ipswich. Potentially after the next few game weeks, maybe it's time to look to move out of Haaland into some of these big hitters in the midfield. And we'll see, will Trent do that in the upcoming weeks? I think with 5 transfers in the bank, he can look to make some wholesale changes this week to his side. So my recommendations looking at this team at the moment would be, obviously he's got to get rid of Saliba. This week is probably not the week to look for Liverpool or Arsenal defenders. But if he is to go for one this week, I think it's an obvious choice to swap Saliba out for a Gabriel at Arsenal. If he wanted to go for a Liverpool player, probably be for me a Konate or Robertson. I think with the Liverpool fixtures coming up, I'd probably avoid going into a Liverpool defender at this time. You've already got yourself in there. Well, actually, he's got 3 Liverpool players, so he'd have to be coming out of Jota with an injury to be able to do that. But yeah, I'd probably recommend going towards Arsenal with their good fixture run for 12, maybe swapping a Saliba out for a Gabriel, or targeting these next 3 game weeks. Given that he's still got 5 transfers and a wild card in the bank, he can afford to target the fixtures coming up and go for someone like a Spurs with a good fixture run, and perhaps go for a Pedro Porro and look for those attacking runs and clean sheets over the next few game weeks. Spurs coming up against Crystal Palace, who've been one of the weakest attacks in the Premier League this season, not managed to score many goals at all, might be a potential for a clean sheet next week. So if I were you, Trent, Saliba out for a Pedro Porro this week looks like a good move to me. Elsewhere in his team, obviously, Kudus, João Pedro, and Ryan Fraser all red flagged. Again, with those 5 transfers, you can look to attack the fixtures over the next few weeks and then potentially wildcard in 12 or 13, or even save that wildcard going forwards to an 18 or a 19 when there's another fixture swing. I'd look to attack with going for potentially a Brennan Johnson, potentially a Garnacho in that midfield, 6 to 6.5 million range. Trent's only got 0.3 million in the bank at the moment and a team value of 100.1. So he can't make huge upgrades in his team. The other players that I would look at in this sort of price range, obviously, Dwight McNeil for Everton, who I think could be really interesting if Calvert-Lewin could finish, or even a Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa would be a really interesting way to do it with this team going forwards. Trent, if it was me and I was picking the team, I think I would be torn between a Dwight McNeil and a Garnacho, and I think I'm going to say against the trend, I'd attack and go for Garnacho with Man United's good fixture runs coming up. I think that would be a really interesting um, move to make. Outside of that, that would leave you with 3 more transfers. Um, the way I see it is that over the next few weeks there is a potential to come out of an Erling Haaland and go into some big hitters in the midfield. If it's the case that Diego Jota is not available, um, obviously you've got your other guy in there as Luis Diaz in Liverpool. If you want to stick with the lads and go for a Liverpool player, alternatively you got Jared Bowen at West Ham, who's going to be super important for them now with Kudus out at the moment around that sort of price point. And you've also got a Brennan Johnson, who you could look to go to. I think this week is not the week to move away from Haaland with Southampton on the horizon, but he really does need to make sure that he's got 11 playing players. So he'll obviously know about Jota. If Jota's available, keep him in your team. You've got your 11 there with Winks on the bench if you need to. If Jota's not available, you've got to look to move him out for maybe a Luis Diaz, or potentially a Brennan Johnson for Spurs to attack those fixtures. That would probably be my advice for you for game week 9, Trent. And then looking forwards at some of the future game weeks, you got a choice on when to make your wild card. If you can hang on to it and you can maneuver your team the way you want game week 12, 13, will be really interesting if you still had maybe 3, maybe 4 transfers around that game week 12, 13 mark, where you could come out of Haaland and go into some big hitters in the midfield of a Saka and a Palmer as well, and you could downgrade Haaland to potentially a Watkins, or even some of the lower price players, like a Welbeck or a Chris Wood, if you wanted to go for 2 big hitters in the midfield. So I think the choice that you have there coming out of Haaland in 12, 13, Trent, is maybe if you come out for a Watkins, then you're probably going to have one spot to upgrade, maybe a Gordon or a who you replace Kudus or Jota for a Saka or a Palmer. Or if you want Salah, Saka, and Palmer together in that midfield, you bring Haaland down to potentially a Chris Wood, or I won't say it, a Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I would definitely avoid that one, but actually a Chris Wood, and then you can upgrade 2 of your 3 midfielders to a Saka and a Palmer going forwards, with some really good fixture runs for both Arsenal and Chelsea, from game week 12, 11, 12 going forwards, that maybe you're looking to target with some captaincies over that range. So far, so good for Trent. Almost in the top 1 million with a couple of good transfers. He could really push his way up the rankings. And if he continues to use his chips as well as he has been so far, I'm sure he'll have a good FPL season. That's all from me in this first episode of rating and reviewing Premier League players' teams. Look out for next week when we've got another big player that we're looking to review his team. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Trent's teams, what transfers you would make if you were him, and maybe some advice that he might read in the comments. And thank you for later on what you think his transfers should be going forwards. Please remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz if you've been listening this long. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great week.